She don't know love is right. Oh, she don't know love. Love is far away from the pain that I see in her eyes. But all of that would change when she's mine. It's like she don't want love, she just can't accept love, 'cause I'm having with love that's keeping her from love. Maybe an ex-lover, could be a father. I don't know, all I can tell how she relates to me. But I would give all of my heart if she would just believe. She don't know love, I love you. And she don't know love is right here. Oh, she don't know love, I love you. Love is far away from the pain that I see in her eyes. But all of that will change when she's mine. It's more than sexual, I'm a reflection of the feeling that's in your soul. It's more than magical, girl, let me take you on a journey that you should know. Don't let the pain from your past keep you from what you're looking for. I promise to give all my heart, I'm the one that you adore. She don't know. Can you tell me the man that wanna love you and protect your heart? Don't let your pain destroy love. Oh, pain that I see in her eyes. But all of that would change when she's mine. I can't let you go.
Good morning. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, universe. Good morning, everyone. Happy blessed Sunday. How are you today? I hope everybody had a good weekend this weekend. Well, it's still the weekend, right? Like, girl. But anyway, I hope you had a good Friday evening. I hope you had a wonderful Saturday. It was a beautiful day yesterday. My son went to his girlfriend's prom. So I got to go to that send-off, and they were so cute. And I have a lot of things that happened this week, but I'm not going to talk about them in advance because I think as we read through, or as I, not because, y'all know I be hitting this mic all the time. But as I read through the rest of chapter 4, which is very lengthy, so I'm going to get started. That's why I'm on early before my people come in, because they will have me distracted and talking. I think as I read through this chapter, that just based on the outline that is in the description, I think I will be able to speak to some of the events of my life this week and some of the awakenings that I had, some of the just being present allowed me to change how I responded to a lifelong relationship that I've had. And it's been pretty cool, right? Like I sent my friend a text message. We were talking about some things that are about to happen for me. And I was like, I'm evolving. Like I can see it, right? Like when you can see yourself like differently, I am a different human right now. And it's exciting. It's not scary. It's just like I don't feel like the word elevated is appropriate, but I do. Not that I'm like beyond or better than anybody else, but I do feel like I'm moving into a very elevated space of just allowing myself to be present. And being present means you are also very vulnerable. And that for me is not a very comfortable place. But I'm learning. I'm learning to be there. So I am going to get started right now because, again, my people are still asleep. My girl Foxy and family texted me last night. She was like, "Are you going live tomorrow?" I was already asleep. I go to bed real early. So I texted her like 2, 3 o'clock this morning. I was like, yeah, probably at like 5. I was doing some work at 5. So I'm here at like 6:15, 6:20. All right. So good morning. Happy blessed Sunday. And thank you for being here. My name is Organized Chaos. I come to you in peace and humility and presence. And this part of my Organized Chaos channel is the Elevation Station. And on the Elevation Station part of my channel, I just read mindfulness things and books, and we have really good conversations just about life and growth and all of that. So today we are back into Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. If you've missed chapters 1 through the beginning of 4, they are a part of the playlist of the Elevation Station. And today, if I'm able to make it through, because this is a lengthy, the whole chapter, we started it last week. It's long, but we didn't get through a lot of it because I talked to my friends a lot. So that's why I'm here at a different time, because my friends are still asleep. All right, let's get into it. So I'm going to do a quick review of what we did last week. So the name of this chapter is Role Playing, the Many Faces of the Ego. We got through villain, victim, lover. We got through letting go of self-definitions, as well as pre-established roles and then temporary roles. And so today we are starting with the monk with sweaty palms. The monk with sweaty palms. Kassan, a Zen teacher and monk, was to officiate at a funeral of a famous nobleman. As he stood there waiting for the governor of the province and other lords and ladies to arrive, he noticed that the palms of his hands were very sweaty. The next day, he called his disciples together and confessed he was not yet ready to be a true teacher. He explained to them that he still lacked the sameness of bearing before all human beings, whether beggar or king. He was still unable to look through social roles and conceptual identities and see the sameness of being in every human. He then left and became the pupil of another master. He returned to his former disciplines 8 years later, enlightened. What that speaks to me is his awareness. He was not ready to lead. In order to lead, He wanted to be able to see people as the humans and not the being part of the humans, not the worker who works at McDonald's or the homeless person that might be on the street asking for money or the president of the United States. He wasn't able to remove those social constructs that has been kind of ingrained and embedded in all of us as human beings. He knew that to be the true leader that he wanted to be, that elevated leader, he had to see people on the same plane, and he wasn't there yet. And so he just said, you know what? I still got some work that I need to do on myself. And before I do this, let me do that work. And then it took him 8 years. 8 years later, he was ready. So ask yourself, when you're looking for that promotion on your job, when you're looking for the things that you see other people have that you don't have you done the work on yourself? Have you let go of ideologies, of social constructs and socialization that has happened in our world, not just America, in the world, so that you can just be, and be the best version of you in order to lead others? Or are you going to be a leader from a very selfish space? Happiness as a role versus true happiness. And I'm going to circle back. Sorry. I'm going to circle back real quick. There are leaders who lead from selfish spaces, right? Like there are very I, I, I leaders, just like there are I human beings in general. I work with a lot of I's. I try to be as much of a present leader as possible. But we live in a society of I's. I feel this. I believe this. I don't understand. I can't control the narrative. I'm doing what's best for me, right? All right. True happiness as a role versus true happiness. How are you? Just great. Couldn't be better. True or false? In many cases, happiness is a role people play, and behind the smiling facade, there is a great deal of pain. Depression, breakdowns, and overreactions are common when unhappiness is covered up behind a smiling exterior and brilliant white teeth. When there is denial, sometimes even to oneself, that there is much unhappiness. Just fine is a role the ego plays more commonly in America than in certain other countries where being and looking miserable is almost the norm and therefore more socially acceptable. It is probably an exaggeration, but I am told that in the capital of one Nordic country, you run the risk of being arrested for drunken behavior if you smile at strangers in the street. If there is unhappiness in you, first you need to acknowledge that it is there. But don't say, I'm unhappy. Unhappiness has nothing to do with who you are. Say, there is unhappiness in me. Then investigate it. A situation you find yourself in may have something to do with it. Action may be required to change the situation or remove yourself from it. Child, these computer things get on my nerves. Leave me alone. I'm sorry, y'all. If there is nothing you can do, face what is and say, well, right now, this is how it is. I can either accept it or make myself miserable. Oh my goodness, y'all. This is what is happening at my job. I have a lot of people who start sentences with, I'm worried. I'm concerned. When that happens, when I see that you don't have a growth mindset. You have a I can't control what's happening mindset. And why? What is that worry? Why? Why are you worried about something that you can't control? Why are you concerned about something, a decision that has been made that you can't control? Why aren't you reframing and saying, I might not agree with this decision, but I'm going to give it a fair chance, right? The primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation, but your thoughts about it. Be aware of the thoughts you are thinking. Separate them from the situation, which is always neutral, which always is as it is. Decisions are. Things will change. Life is going to happen for all of us. Be present. You can't control this life, y'all. I heard. I had a parent say that there's a change that's happening that makes them uncomfortable. And admitted in that same breath, I'm uncomfortable because I can't control it. Come on, y'all. What is this control thing that us humans need to have? I had an experience this week where I allowed myself to not control. And I had to be vulnerable and share with another human being, which is something that I've never done in my life, that I am going to allow you to control this situation. I'm going to consciously be vulnerable to you. Y'all, that is not something that I have ever done in my life. Because what? Girl, what? No. We have to stop wanting to control things that are out of our control. It will save your sanity, I promise you. There is the situation or the fact, and here are my thoughts about it. Instead of making up stories, stay with the fact. Instead of making up stories, worst case scenarios, stop it. Get your mind out of the future that you can't control. Instead of making up stories, stay with the facts. For example, I am ruined is a story. It limits you and prevents you from taking effective action. I have 50 cents left in the bank account is a fact. Facing facts is always empowering. Be aware that what you think, to a large extent, creates the emotions that you feel. See the link between your thinking and your emotions. Rather than being your thoughts and emotions, be the awareness behind them. Don't seek happiness. If you seek it, you won't find it. Because seeking is the antithesis of happiness. Happiness is ever elusive, but freedom from unhappiness, that's what I'm learning. Yeah, that, like, for real. Freedom from unhappiness is attainable. And it's attainable now because you face what it is rather than making up stories about it. It just happened to me. I had to face some really, 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 really long-standing feelings that I have never shared with another human being. And that was hard. It's hard to just expose yourself, right? To be vulnerable to your feelings in this space of humanness and to share that. Like, we don't usually do that. We usually give a representative of ourselves and we conform to the person that we're with because that's who we should be with. That's who we were permitted to be with because there is a permissive will of God that exists. And we were permitted to be with this person that we weren't necessarily designed to be with. But because of that permissive will, you get to make choices. But you've conformed who you are to fit that person. And they probably have or have not conformed to fit you. But I had to have a really honest conversation. And it was hard, like, to expose my vulnerabilities and like why this keeps happening in my behaviors. But it felt good. It freed me from wanting to control another human being. It freed me and it allowed me to just be. And whatever happens will happen. And I'm okay with that. When you can be okay with life doing what it's going to do despite you, because you are not a factor, honestly. You're not. You're just here. You just reside and exist and hold space here. But when you can let go of your need to control other human beings and situations and spaces, y'all, it is happiness. Unhappiness covers up your natural state of well-being and inner peace, the source of true happiness. Parenthood, role or function. Many adults play roles when they speak to young children. They use silly words and sounds. They talk down to the child. They don't treat the child as an equal. The fact that you temporarily know more or that you are bigger does not mean the child is not your equal. I know this. I work with children every single day. I learn so much from the babies. I absolutely do not think that I have all the answers to all of the questions that the babies have. I love their energy. I love their just newness in the world, right? I get to explore with them, not lead them. I got an 18-year-old son who went away to his girlfriend's prom yesterday. And I had to have an awareness moment with him because his dad did not show up to see them off. That man crushed my son's soul momentarily. But because I am his mother, I looked my son in the eyes and I told my son to take some deep breaths, to allow himself to feel whatever he was feeling, to get those tears out, and to know that you have more information right now than you had before this moment. And now that you have this information, move accordingly. This is your life, not his. He does not get to control you. I understand the relationship that you want to have with him. You have to be aware of the relationship that you have with him. And it was freeing. It was freeing. I'm not mad at his dad. I don't want him to be mad at his dad. I want him to accept his dad for exactly who he is and move accordingly with the information that he has. The fact that you temporarily know more or that you are bigger does not mean that the child is not your equal. The majority of adults at some point in their lives find themselves being a parent, one of the most universal roles. The all-important question is, are you able to fulfill the function of being a parent and fulfill it well without identifying with that function? That is, without it becoming a role. Part of the necessary function of being a parent is looking after the needs of the child, preventing the child from getting into danger, and at times telling the child what to do and not to do. When being a parent becomes an identity, however, when your sense of self is entirely or largely derived from it, the function easily becomes overemphasized, exaggerated, and takes you over. Giving children what they need becomes excessive and turns into spoiling. Guilty. To a degree. I think we are right? And I think everybody's definition of spoiling a child is just different. I don't feel like my children are overly spoiled, but they are. But they are not necessarily spoiled with materialistic things either. Like my children are spoiled with knowledge. My children are spoiled with knowing who their mother is fully. There is no doubt in my mind. There is nothing that anybody could tell my children about me that my kids don't already know. I promise you that. They are spoiled with knowledge. Preventing them from getting into danger becomes overprotectiveness, and interferes with their need to explore the world and try things out for themselves. Telling children what to do or not to do becomes controlling and overbearing. What is more, the role playing identity remains in place long after the need for those particular functions has passed. Parents then cannot let go of being a parent even when the child grows into an adult. They can't let go of the need to be needed by their child, even when the adult child is 40 years old. Parents can't let go of the notion, I know what's best for you. I gave that up a long time ago. My children are a reflection of me, child. I knew I couldn't tell my kids what they was going to be, who they was going to be. I knew I had to let my kids figure some things out for themselves. And I just had to be here as a mom to support them in those decisions because, baby, my mama she tried her hardest to control me a little bit. She didn't try like she knew enough that I was just an energy that needed to just explore. And she did give me that space to explore. But there were some difficult times that we encountered where I just was doing me. And she was just like, it's just not good that you're doing you like this, girl. And I was like, girl, but I got to do this because this is who I am. And she was like, but girl, that's not smart. And I was like, but girl, it ain't got to be smart. Because you know what I'm saying? Like, so we did have some interesting moments in my childhood as I kind of matured. And this is at this part of life, I say between the age of, I give myself a 10-year gap, right? Like every 10 years. So between my 40s and 50s, I kind of like mellowed out much more, a lot more. And then like at 50, I have so much more clarity than I've ever had. Like even at 49, I was still doing a lot of goofy stuff. And I still do goofy stuff today. Don't get it twisted. I got goofiness in me. I got randomness that resides in me. That energy exists. But I'm much more chill with it. I'm much more aware of that energy and I can navigate it a whole lot better. Even at literally, like I did some goofy things at 49. Like you'd be like, well, girl, that was just last year. Correct. Give yourself space to let go of your past and to grow. Don't freeze yourself or other people in time, y'all. We got to stop doing that as a society. Well, you did this bad thing and I don't like you because of that. I ain't did that thing. Girl, it's been a year since I did that goofy thing. You still mad about that? Girl, I have moved on. I have elevated beyond that goofy thing. I don't do goofy stuff like that no more. Now, if I was still doing it, then yeah. But no, girl, stop. The role of parent is still being played compulsively. And so there is no authentic relationships. Parents define themselves by that role and are unconsciously afraid of loss of identity when they cease being parents. If their desire to control or influence the actions of their adult child is thwarted, as it usually is, because yeah, they're grown-ups, they're their own human beings, they will start to criticize or show their disapproval or try to make the child feel guilty, all in an unconscious attempt to preserve their role, their identity. On the surface, it looks as if they were concerned about their child and they themselves believe it, but they are only really concerned about preserving their role identity. And all egoic motivations are self-enhancement and self-interest, sometimes cleverly disguised, even from the person in whom the ego operates. A mother or father who identifies with the parental role may also try to become more complete through their children. The ego's need to manipulate others into feeling the sense of lack it continuously feels is then directed towards them. If the mostly unconscious assumptions and motivations behind the parents' compulsion to manipulate their children were made conscious and voiced, they would probably include some or all of the following. I want you to achieve what I never achieved. I want you to be somebody in the eyes of the world so that I too can be somebody through you. Don't disappoint me. I sacrifice so much for you. My disapproval of you is intended to make you feel so guilty and uncomfortable that you finally conform to my wishes. And it goes without saying that I know what's best for you. I love you, and I will continue to love you if you do what I know is right for you. Don't do any of those things to your children. Don't do any of those things to your children. I'm going to say it one more time. Don't do any of those things to your children. You wouldn't want somebody doing it to you. I know what's best for you. No, you don't. Girl, I don't know what's best for me most of the time. How you going to know? Really? Stop it. When you make unconscious motivations conscious, you immediately see how absurd they are. The ego that lies behind them becomes visible, as does its dysfunction. Some parents that I spoke to suddenly realized, my God, is this what I've been doing? Once you see what you are doing or have been doing, you also see its futility. And that unconscious pattern then comes to an end by itself. Awareness is the greatest agent for change. I was going to share a story, but I think I'm not going to share it. I'll wait. We'll see. I'll wait. If your parents are doing this to you, do not tell them they are unconscious and in the grip of the ego. That will likely make them even more unconscious because the ego will take up a defensive position. It is enough for you to recognize that it is the ego in them, that it is not who they are. Egoic patterns, even long-standing ones, sometimes dissolve almost miraculously when you don't oppose them internally. Opposition only gives them renewed strength, but even if they don't, you can then accept your parents' behavior with compassion, without needing to react to it. That is to say, without personalizing it. Be aware also of your own unconscious assumptions or expectations that lie behind your old habitual reactions to them. My parents should approve of what I do. They should understand me and accept me for who I am. Really? Why? The fact is, they don't, because they can't. Their evolving consciousness hasn't made the quantum leap to that level of awareness yet. They are not yet able to disidentify from their role. Yes, but I can't feel happy and comfortable with who I am unless I have their approval and understanding. Why? You're a whole human being. You're a whole individual. You're a whole person. Why do you need other people's, even your parents' approval for anything? That I've never understood. But I guess that's part of my nature, right? When I quit my job, when I was in my early 20s, I was working for corporate America, fresh out of college. They were paying me for me to go to grad school. I hadn't finished grad school yet. And I had to choose between my job or my dance studio. That I think I had been in my dance studio for like 2 or 3 years. And I had about 250 students at the time. I chose me. I was young. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a lot of responsibility. And I didn't really care about all of the things that my mom was afraid of. She was afraid, like, you've got a good job. Why would you leave? They're paying for you to go to school. Why would you leave? I didn't care. I needed me. I needed to choose me. And in choosing me, I chose to focus on my dance studio. Like, why wouldn't I do that? Like, girl, I'm at a crossroads and I have no regrets. I hated my corporate America job. It did not fulfill me. I was not happy. I was taking insurance tests. I was having a hard time passing tests. I knew I was intelligent, but them tests was not for me because God was showing me, the universe was showing me, girl, you ain't gonna be here long. This is not for you. This is a pass through. These are pass through situations in life. And I never looked back. I don't regret leaving that job. But my mom thought she knew best, what was best. And it caused some tension because she just could not understand or fathom, because she worked at a job for 25 years and retired, right? That's what she was used to. That's who she is. She was not conscious about just letting her child make different decisions. And my brother kind of did the same thing she did. So when I come around, just out here squirrely whirly, living life like it's golden, as my brother would say, like I was a princess. What? You're not going to stay at this comfortable position? You getting paid well? They paying for you to go. Like, why would you leave? Because I don't like it. Because that's not for me. I knew enough then to know this ain't it. Don't stay stuck. Choose you. Choose you. What difference does their approval or disapproval truly make to who you are? All such unexamined assumptions cause a great deal of negative emotions, much unnecessary unhappiness. Be alert. Are some of the thoughts that go through your mind the internalized voice of your father or mother saying perhaps something like, you are not good enough, you will never amount to anything, or some other judgment or mental position? If there is awareness in you, you will be able to recognize that voice in your head for what it is, an old thought, conditioned by the past. If there is awareness in you, you no longer need to believe in every thought you think. It's an old thought. No more. Awareness means presence. I love presence. I was following somebody one night. He was like, you must really trust me. You just follow me around. What's going on with that? It's like, I'm present. I'm just being present. It is such a cool place to be, right? Like, I'm not trying to control nothing. I'm just kind of going with the flow. I'm present. Awareness means presence. And only presence can dissolve the unconscious past in you. If you think you are so enlightened, Ram Dass said, go and spend a week with your parents. That is good advice. The relationship with your parents is not only the primordial relationship that sets the tone for all subsequent relationships, it is also a good test for your degree of presence. The more shared past there is in a relationship, the more present you need to be. Otherwise, you will be forced to relive the past again and again and again until you figure it out. Stop that cycle. How do you stop the cycle? You become present, you become aware, and that cycle will stop, and you will gain clarity and move forward. Conscious suffering. If you have young children, give them help, guidance, and protection to the best of your ability. But even more important, give them space. Give them space. Yeah, that was one of the greatest things my mom did for me. I didn't even know she was doing it. Give your kids space to be them without you. They come into this world through you, but they are not yours. The belief, I know what's best for you, may be true when they are young, but the older they get, the less true it becomes. The more expectations you have of how their life should unfold, the more you are in your mind instead of being present for them. Eventually, they will make mistakes and they will experience some form of suffering, as all humans do. In fact, they may be mistakes only from your perspective. What to you is a mistake may be exactly what your children need to do or experience. Give them as much help and guidance as you can, but realize that you may also at times have to allow them to make mistakes, especially as they begin to reach adulthood. At times, you may also have to allow them to suffer. And that's the hard part right there, child, because you don't want your kids to suffer. You don't want your kids to go through what you went through. But it's part of their process. They will learn from that. Suffering may come to them out of the blue, or it may come as the consequence of their own mistakes. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could spare them from all suffering? I say no, only because where I am now, if I didn't have the experiences that I had before I got here, I would not be this version of myself that exists today. All of my pain, all of my suffering, all of my joy, all of my lessons, all of the things that I've experienced in this lifetime have created this version of me. There is not one piece of it that needs to be removed, because if it were, I wouldn't be fully who I am today. Don't take that from your children. Guide them. Give them clarity. Be there to support them. But you cannot live their life. You cannot live your life through your children. If you are unhappy, get conscious. Get aware. Stop putting that on your kids. That is not their burden to carry, to be a better version of you. Why? What does that mean? They need to be the best versions of themselves. Let me go back a little bit. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could spare them from all suffering? No, it wouldn't. They would not evolve as human beings and would remain shallow, identified with the external form of things. Suffering drives you deeper. The paradox is that suffering is caused by identification with form and erodes identification with form. A lot of it is caused by the ego, although eventually suffering destroys the ego, but not until you suffer consciously. Humanity is destined to go beyond suffering, but not in the way the ego thinks. One of the ego's many erroneous assumptions, one of its many deluded thoughts is, I should not have to suffer. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I guess I got to put a pin right here. If you have been on my channel for a minute, you know that I started a new job this year. I learned a lot. I feel like I have been in a crash course of leadership through my experience this year. I have suffered. I have cried. I have been mansplained. I have seen what racism looks like up close from people who don't think that they hold that energy within them. I have seen bias in action. I have experienced a lot of suffering. But I don't believe that I've suffered because of the ability that I have now that I don't think I was conscious of before. I don't absorb energy anymore. I'm not able to identify with your energy. I am able to see your energy and to call it what it is and to reflect it back to you. And the uncomfortability that exists in that space when human beings who believe that they are just, who believe that they are right, who believe that they are well informed, when they see themselves, they don't necessarily want to. They don't necessarily like the reflection that they see. I have suffered, but I have grown. I grew this year in a way that if you told me what was going to happen to me professionally, I'd have been like, child, all of that is not going to happen in 1 year. And the year ain't even over, girl. And then we still got another month or so of school. So I still got some new awakenings to happen within these next 30 or so days. But I have suffered. I have grown. I have new awareness about not just my workplace. I take my work life and I transition some of those learnings, not all, but I transition some of those learnings into my personal life. And it's pretty cool, y'all. It's pretty cool to just be a human that can just be and exist and not try to conform others to who you are or get people to think like you want them to think. Nope, I just be. And I like it. So yes, you do have to suffer. Stop thinking that you can change that for your children. They will have bumps in their roads. Your job, parents, is to be there, to help them, to support them, to give them advice, sound advice, not biased advice based on your ego and identity. Sometimes the thought gets transferred to someone close to you. My child should not have to suffer. That thought itself lies at the root of suffering. Suffering has a noble purpose. The evolution of consciousness and the burning up of the ego. The man on the cross is an archetype image. He is every man and every woman. As long as you resist suffering, it is a slow process because the resistance creates more ego to burn up. When you accept suffering, however, there is an acceleration of that process, which is brought about by the fact that you suffer consciously. You can accept suffering for yourself, or you can accept it for someone else, such as your child or parent. In the midst of conscious suffering, there is already the transmutation. The fire of suffering becomes the light of consciousness. My mom is going through some things right now, and she's not getting good sleep. And she tells me the same story almost every day. And I can't fix it for her. And so when she says it to me, Ma, what do you want me to do? And she knows there's nothing that I can do. I can't stop her suffering. There's nothing for me to do, but I can hear her. I can be present for her. I can take her to her doctor's appointments. We can figure out what's going on. We can get her that CPAP machine so she can get some rest. But that takes time. And in between all of that, education and appointments, she's still going to have to suffer. And I don't want my baby to suffer. But there's nothing that I can do to stop it until it's appropriate time. And when the universe, the perfect design of the universe, manifests, then her suffering will end. And that is true for all of us, for our children and ourselves. Stop trying to control the pain. Stop trying to control the growth. It will come. Allow it to be. Allow it to move through you. And be still. Good morning, beautiful. Shalom. Good morning, sunshine. I had to sneak on here before my people woke up because I'm 48 minutes in and I already know that y'all would have slowed me down like y'all did last week. So I had to get going because this chapter is long and I only got through a couple of sections last week. Good morning, Foxy. You already saw I was up at the crack of dawn. I thought I didn't go at 5. I got on at 6, but still. Amen. Hey, y'all. Hey, Foxy. See, I'm being quiet this morning to get to the word. Thank you, beautiful. But you can talk, but we're gonna stay. So listen, I didn't even talk about like my week yet. I didn't even start the live. So if you go back, I'm starting in the book. I said as I go through the book, if it is a parallel to anything that happened to me this week, then I'll talk about it. Other than that, I'm not telling y'all about my week, but a lot of my life now really does parallel all of the stuff that is in this book. So there's going to always be a correlation, not a causation, but for sure a correlation. I can make things make sense. I'm pretty good at that. Get out your head. All right, let's continue. So yes, stop trying to control suffering, stop trying to control pain. And I'm not saying, like, if you got a headache, take an aspirin, right? But if you have a consistent headache, go to the doctor. Like, that is not a suffering that you need to keep up. Do the work to get past that, because something, your body is talking to you. So just, you know what I'm saying? Like, suffer with sense, if that makes sense. Suffer with some sense, people. But yeah, so that my mom's stuff, all of the things that she's going through right now, I want to help the baby, and I can't. But I can do other things for her in the process so that we can alleviate some of the things that she's going through. But it takes time. It's a process. And for her, it's a growth area because she didn't really take good care of herself, which is like an awakening to me, because she kept me at the doctor's office. My brother, like, she did those things for us that she didn't even do for herself. And now I have to do those things that she did for me. I do them for her. My son made me smile the other day. We were going to get the rest of his stuff for prom because he finally got his mind right and finished his schoolwork, because mama wasn't coming off the bag until the schoolwork got done. And it got done because his girlfriend's prom was this weekend and he needed his fit. So he got his life right. So anyway, he drove us, which was cool because he just got a new car. So he got to drive Miss Daisy around. He drove us to the mall and we were talking. I don't even know how my mom came up, but he was talking about me caring for my mom. And he was like, my Grammy is so blessed to have you to take care of her. And I was like, oh, Boogaloo, thank you. Like, that meant a lot to me. But then I had to give love to my best friend. My best friend over the last decade, up until last year, I watched her. I learned from her how to take care of an ailing parent. My Wi-Fi looks like it's going crazy. Hold on for a second. Let me make sure it's being unstable, and I don't want it to freeze on y'all while I'm in the middle of a sentence. I look fuzzy. Give it a second, you guys. The internet, it's not Wi-Fi. I keep saying Wi-Fi. I don't use the Wi-Fi. I use my internet. Hold on. And we back. All right, so I had to give love to my best friend because I watched her look after, care for, like, the way she took care of her mother as she knew her mom was kind of transitioning from this world for a decade. Like, y'all, I watched, I learned, I know what to do. So much so that one day my brother texted me and he was like, well, I don't want you to have to take off from work. Now, mind you, me and my brother is kind of like at a crossroads in our relationship, but that's a whole nother life. I don't want you to have to take off to take mama to her doctor's appointments. I got this. I got this part. Let me do this. I know how to do this. I'm good at doing this. And the conversations that me and my mom get to have, like in the car and hanging out, and sometimes we go and get to the mall, or we go to a restaurant and we just eat. Like, I want to do this. It is an honor for me to help my mom right now. I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for that lady on so many levels. Child, don't get me started with her. Yes, he got his life right. Beautiful. He wanted I should put a post up of these crazy expensive shoes he wanted. He wanted some Louboutins um along with his custom fit suit to match his girl's dress. And so yeah, Foxy, I gotta send you some pictures of them from yesterday. They was cute. They was cute. They was cute. So yeah. But yeah. So anyway, you gotta suffer, y'all. Everybody gotta suffer. Stop trying to act like people don't have to suffer. They will. The ego says, I shouldn't have to suffer, and that thought makes you suffer so much more. It is a distortion of the truth, which is always paradoxical. The truth is that you need to say yes to suffering before you can transcend it. Conscious parenting. Many children harbor hidden anger and resentment toward their parents, and often the cause is inauthenticity in the relationship. Because y'all know, listen, this is one thing I didn't do. I knew I didn't want to be this kind of parent, and I don't know if it's going to backfire on me, but if anything, I was 1,000, 100,000 with my kids about who I am. I have two different dads for my kids, about who their fathers were and are, the relationships that I had that created them. Like I've been very transparent with my children about all of that. There is nothing that another human being, even those men, could tell my kids that they don't already know. The only thing that they could do, which my ex-husband does try to do, is make up stuff and or freeze me in time as if I'm still 30 something years old and I'm a whole big 50, almost 51 next month, right? Y'all, I'm sorry, my allergies are acting up right now. So yeah, that part of my parenting, I knew out the gate. I'm not gonna lie to these kids. I'm not gonna. I even took Santa away at a very early age. This ain't no Santa? This is your mama. I work. I go to work, and these gifts, this fit, all of this stuff, is from me. It's not. It's no God. I didn't let none of that reside in my children. Hold on, y'all. The Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi. We gonna wait till it come back. It don't look like it's freezing, but I do look fuzzy on my devices that I'm looking at. And my eye is dying. I got a leaky eye for some reason. Allergies, whatever it is. All right, it looks like it's coming back, and it's back. All right, so I'm gonna start over because I had just started. Many children harbor hidden anger and resentment toward their parents, and often the cause is inauthenticity in the relationship. The child has a deep longing for the parent to be there as a human being, not as a role, no matter how conscientiously that role is being played. You may be doing all the right things and the best you can do for your child, but even doing the best you can is not enough. In fact, doing is never enough if you neglect being. Doing things, buying things, it's not enough if you are not able to just be present with your kid, to just be a human being with your child. I'm good, Foxy. Okay. The ego knows nothing of being, but believes you will eventually be saved by doing. If you are in the grip of the ego, you believe that by doing more and more, you will eventually accumulate enough doings. Like I got a bag of doings. I did this for you. I did that for you. Don't be that parent. Don't do that. To make yourself feel complete at some point in the future. You won't. You will only lose yourself in doing. The entire civilization is losing itself in doing that is not rooted in being and thus becomes futile. How do you bring being into the life of a busy family, into the relationship with your child? The key is to give your child attention. Just be there. There are two kinds of attention. One we might call form-based attention. The other is formless attention. Form-based attention is always connected in some way with doing or evaluating. Have you done your homework? Eaten your dinner? Tidied up your room? Brushed your teeth? Do this. Stop doing that. Hurry up. Get ready. What's the next thing we have to do? This question pretty much summarizes what family life is like in many homes. Form-based being is, of course, necessary and has its place. But if that's all there is in the relationship with your child, then the most vital dimension is missing and being becomes completely obscured by doing. By the cares of the world, as Jesus put it. Formless attention is inseparable from the dimension of being. How does that work? I'm gonna tell you one of the things I used to do with my kids when they were younger, because like home life is different than when you walk out of the house. So we would go on dates. Me and my kids we go to the movies and hang out, go to a restaurant and hang out. When my daughter she's 2 years older, so when some activities she would do, I would take my son on the date. He thought he was taking me on a date, but we would just go hang out, just be. Having a meal with your kids outside of your home changes the dynamic of do this, do that, sit up at the table. Did you like having it changes the dynamic. Going to a movie, going to what's that? Like when those bumper car places, playing video games, that changes the dynamic of your relationship, and it just allows you to be in their presence, to just exchange energy with your kids. Perfectly imperfect and aware, that makes you beautiful. It does. It makes us all beautiful. Yes. Formless attention is inseparable from the dimension of being. How does that work? As you look at, listen to, touch, or help your child with this or that, you are alert, still completely present, not wanting anything other than that moment as it is. In this way, you make room for being. In that moment, if you are present, you are not a father or a mother. You are the alertness, the stillness, the presence that is listening, looking, touching, even speaking. You are the being behind the doing. Later this summer, I'm going to take my kids to Vegas so we can just be. Like, I'm going to introduce them to Las Vegas. My son was like, "You going to go to the club with us?" I ain't that much of a being to absolutely hang out with my kids like that. No, sir. I'm not going to the club. But now we're going to get a nice rental. I'm going to hang out at the pool with y'all. We're going to do some things on the strip. We're going to walk around. I'm going to take y'all to some spots that I know that's pretty cool. In some of these hotels, they got the gondola in the Venetian. I mean, like, it's just a lot of stuff to do in Vegas. So I'm just going to be with my kids outside of the day-to-day. I got to go to work. I come home. I go to sleep. My son got to go to school. He's trying to graduate. He got prom. My daughter is in college. She's taking her classes online. They both got jobs. Like, we got to change the atmosphere and just be with each other. A lot of times I'm at home. I might not even talk to my kids. They're downstairs. I'm upstairs doing my thing, sitting at the computer working and or sleep. They're downstairs. If I'm not here, my daughter's like, "Where you at?" I'm like, "Girl, what does it matter? We're not even talking when we in the house." She's like, "I just want you to be here." She just wants my presence in the house, right? Like, that's pretty cool. When your kids just want you to be with them. They ain't even got to be in your face. They don't want to talk to you. They just want you to be around them. I'm honored that I have that relationship with my kids. That they just like, I just want you in the house, girl. Like, for real? Y'all like me like that? Thank you. Recognizing your child. You are a human being. What does that mean? Mastery of life is not a question of control, but of finding a balance between human and being. Mother, father, husband, wife, young, old, the roles you play, the functions you fulfill, whatever you do, all that belongs to the human dimension. We talked about this last week. We are human beings. We are conditioned to focus on the human part of human being. We are not conditioned in general to focus on the being of our nature. Society does not want us at large to just be. If we can just be, we won't be so enthralled with celebrities, gossip, fancy new cars, the hottest trend on TikTok, because our being will just be at peace and be still. The world needs us to focus on our humanness because of that commerciality that exists and resides in us as well. We like shiny things. We like new things. Guilty. I am a human being. I'm learning more about the being part of myself. I ain't gonna lie though, girl. I got me a new car. But we should not focus solely on the humanness in us. We have to focus on just being. What does that mean? As I embark on a very new relationship with someone that I've known for over 20 years, I've never just been allowed to be present in our stuff. I've always had a desire to control. I didn't know what it was like to just be. And so this is a new territory for me. And it's not scary. It is different. I don't get scared. I'm not scared of much of anything. I love pretty. I like sparkly stuff. Beautiful. Girl. You got to see my son's shoes. So listen. I got sparkly shoes that I wear to work. I've invested. I keep on hitting this mic. This mic drives me crazy hitting it. I've invested in a lot of sparkly gym shoes that I wear to work because I run around the building all day. My son likes sparkly stuff too. So we got him some sparkly shoes. But all my sparkly shoes together didn't cost what his sparkly shoes for prom costs. But he is my child. So we had to get the sparkly shoes because, girl, they was pretty. And he was killing it yesterday. If I'm comfortable, I might share a picture of my boogaloo with his fit on from yesterday. I'll see. Because his prom is not until next month. So I really don't want to post until it's his prom. He went to his girlfriend's prom yesterday. So we'll see. All right, I forgot where I was. Let's go back. It has its place and needs to be honored, but in itself, it is not enough for a fulfilled, truly meaningful relationship or life. Human alone is never enough, no matter how hard you try or what you achieve. Then there is being. It is found in the still, alert presence of consciousness itself. The consciousness that you are. Human is form. Y'all know I call this thing an avatar. Being is formless. That's the energy that we all have. That's what I correlated. So we have this avatar that we're given, we're assigned to when we come into this realm of living. And then our consciousness is our energy that we reside in and hold as a part of the avatar that we were assigned to when we entered this realm of living. Human and being are not separate. My consciousness resides within this avatar. Human and being are not separate, but interwoven. Beautiful said, I'm so looking forward to that season with my kids. Child. Yes. When y'all can just chillax together, it's beautiful. It really is. Like, I feel like I know I wasn't a perfect parent. I know I made mistakes. But my little people, those are my besties. Not like my best friends, because child, they don't know all the things. But those are my little besties. In the human dimension, you are unquestionably superior to your child. You are bigger, stronger, know more, can do more. If that dimension is all you know, you will feel superior to your child, if only unconsciously. You will make your child feel inferior, if only unconsciously. There is no equality between you and your child, because there is only form in your relationship. And in form, you are, of course, not equal. You may love your child, but your love will be human only. That is to say, conditional, possessive, intermittent. Only beyond form in being are you equal, and only when you find the formless dimension in yourself can there be true love in that relationship. The presence that you are, the timeless I am, recognizes itself in another, and the other, the child in this case, feels loved. That is to say, recognized. To love is to recognize yourself in another. The other's otherness then stands revealed as an illusion pertaining to the purely human realm, the realm of form. The longing for love that is in every child is the longing to be recognized, not on the level of form, but on the level of being. If parents honor only the human dimension of the child, but neglect being, the child will sense that the relationship is unfulfilled, that something absolutely vital is missing, and there will be a buildup of pain in the child and sometimes unconscious resentment toward the parents. Why don't you recognize me? This is what the pain or resentment seems to be saying. This is so true. We have to be aware of violating our children's voices. Don't suppress your child's feelings and voice by absolutely. Listen to them. They are their own whole human being, just like you are. Your age, your position, your giving birth to them does not mean that you have more emotional intellect than they do. Just remember that. We do that when we dismiss their thoughts, feelings, and opinions as invalid because we know more. That's what I'm saying. Don't believe the hype. Learn from your kids. Emotional intelligence, they don't teach us that. It is not a gift that the world wants us all to have. When your children speak, it is the universe speaking through them. Listen. Listen. When another recognizes you, that recognition draws the dimension of being more fully into this world through both of you. That is the love that redeems the world. I have been speaking of this with specific reference to the relationship with your child, but it equally applies, of course, to our relationships. It has been God is love, but that is not absolutely correct. God is the one life in and beyond the countless forms of life. Love implies duality, lover and beloved, subject or object. So love is the recognition of oneness in the world of duality. This is the birth of God into the world of form. Love makes the world less worldly, less dense, more transparent to the divine dimension, the light of consciousness itself. Giving up role playing. To do whatever is required of you in any situation without it becoming a role that you identify with is an essential lesson in the art of living that each one of us is here to learn. You become most powerful in whatever you do if the action is performed for its own sake rather than as a means to protect, enhance, or conform to your role identity. Every role is a fictitious sense of self. Every role, motherhood, parenthood, your job title, every role is a fictitious sense of self. And through it, everything becomes personalized and thus corrupted and distorted by the mind made little me and whatever role it happens to be playing. Most of the people who are in positions of power in this world, such as politicians, TV personalities, business as well as religious leaders, are completely identified with their role, with a few notable exceptions. They may be considered VIPs, but they are no more than unconscious players in the egoic game, a game that looks so important, yet is ultimately devoid of true purpose. It is in the words of Shakespeare, a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Amazingly, Shakespeare arrived at this conclusion without having the benefit of television. If the egoic earth drama has any purpose at all, it is an indirect one. So you mean to tell me Shakespeare knew all of the la that we can experience at the fingertips through this social media app we call YouTube, these Instagrams, these Facebooks, these lives that people go on when we record stuff that is Shakespeare knew before this about all of these egos out here running crazy in the world. This egoic earth drama that we like to tune into and watch other people and talk about other people. Shakespeare knew it. That's why I be talking about, y'all. None of this stuff is new. None of the things that we are experiencing is new. It has evolved. It looks differently. Life is 360. Life is a cycle. Life repeats itself. Life reinvents itself. The energy transforms. Life will always life. The earth will always. We will always have bugs and trees until the earth doesn't exist anymore. Humans will procreate. There's nothing you can do about it. It is the circle of life. It will continue to feed and grow. If the egoic earth drama, YouTube drama, Instagram drama, Facebook drama, if the egoic earth drama has any purpose at all, egoic drama too, y'all. Be careful about what you're watching on YouTube. Be careful about the chats you drop into. If the egoic earth drama has any purpose at all, it is an indirect one. It creates more and more suffering on the planet. And suffering, although largely ego created, is in the end also ego destructive. It is the fire in which the ego burns itself up. In a world of role-playing personalities, those few people who don't project a mind-made image, and there are some even on TV, in the media, and the business world, but function from the deeper core of their being, those who do not attempt to appear more than they are, but are simply themselves, stand out as remarkable and are only ones who truly make a difference in the world. They are the bringers of the new consciousness. Whatever they do becomes empowered because it is in alignment with the purpose of the whole. Their influence, however, goes far beyond what they do, far beyond their function. Their mere presence, simple, natural, unassuming, has a transformational effect on whoever they come into contact with. is me. That is me at work. I am consciousness. I am clear about what I see. I make data-informed decisions at work. And those decisions can be uncomfortable for people who don't believe in data. My data is not just numbers. It's not just a test. My data is human behavior. I study human beings. I've studied myself. And so I study other human beings. That's what I do. I'm kind of good at it. And I use that information to make decisions. And when you operate or work in a space where the human beings believe that they are well informed, that they are doing all of the right things, and you show them something different, it can become very uncomfortable for them. There is no discomfort for me. I stand in truth. I speak clearly and honestly. I'm very transparent. And I lead with love and facts. But when the human beings focus more on the human than the being part, it can become really uncomfortable. And if you are in a space like that in your life, understand you are. You are. When I get into that uncomfortable space with my staff, I stand confidently. I am. I am that I am. I know this makes you uncomfortable. I know you don't think I know what I'm talking about. I know you think I haven't been here long enough. I'm aware. However, let me share some information with you. And you got to be confident to do that kind of work with human beings, because the human beings are going to always default, especially when they're not conscious, to their human. Like it's just human nature to default to the human, right? And doing that growth mindset work with human beings that think that they have achieved, that they've arrived, you never arrive. As long as you're living, you've never arrived. I just need to put that into the universe for every single one of us, including me. I've never arrived anywhere. When I wake up every day, I'm learning. When I wake up every day, I'm growing. I am going to learn something in every single moment of every single day that I didn't know before. There is going to be some new information that is going to be input into me today that is going to make me a better version of myself so that I can be just a little bit better than I was before. As soon as you are trying to be this or that, you are playing a role. Just be yourself is good advice, but it can also be misleading. The mind will come in and say, let's see, how can I be myself? Then the mind will develop some kind of strategy, how to be myself. Another role, how can I be myself, is in fact the wrong question. It implies you have to do something to be yourself. But how doesn't apply here, because you are yourself already. Just stop adding unnecessary baggage to who you already are. But I don't know who I am. I don't know what it means to be myself. If you can be absolutely comfortable with not knowing who you are, then that's what you are. The being behind the human, a field of pure potentiality rather than something that is already defined. I am embarking on a very undefined relationship. And I've allowed myself to just be in it. And I don't know what that looks like, right? I'm used to, we should be doing this. We should be on a date. We should be going here. We should be going there. Nope. I have none of those expectations right now. I'm just being. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's a new journey for me. I think I titled it, I titled this my submissive part of life. I don't know how to be submissive. I was not submissive with my husband. And he was my husband, but I knew he wasn't a leader. He wasn't rooted in God. I knew that much. So I couldn't be submissive to him. I've never been submissive to a man ever in my life. Never. I am practicing that right now. I don't know what that looks like. So I'll let y'all know how this goes. But yeah, I'm on a submissive journey. What does submission look like? What does that feel like? That is a power of being that I've never experienced, and I would like to in this lifetime. So I'll let y'all know later. Give up defining yourself to yourself or to others. You won't die. You will come to life, and don't be concerned with how others define you. When they listen at work, I had a staff member tell me, half of the people like you, and half of the people think you're the devil. Okay. I'm okay with that. I'm not here for a popularity contest. I'm here to do what's best for kids every single day. And what's best for kids isn't always what's best for the grown-ups. So, give up defining yourself to yourself or to others. You won't die. You will come to life, and don't be concerned with how others define you. When they define you, they are limiting themselves, so it's their problem. Whenever you interact with people, don't be there primarily as a function or a role, but as a field of conscious presence. Why does the ego play roles? Because of one unexamined assumption, one fundamental error, one unconscious thought. That thought is, y'all ready for this? I am not enough. I am not enough. Other unconscious thoughts follow. I need to play a role in order to get what I need to be fully myself. I need to get more so that I can be more. But you cannot be more than you are, because underneath your physical and psychological form, you are one with life itself, one with being. In form, you are and will always be inferior to some, superior to others. In essence, you are neither inferior nor superior to anyone. True self-esteem and true humility arise out of that realization. In the eyes of the ego, self-esteem and humility are contradictory. In truth, they are one and the same. Baby, you better preach. They let their ego overshadow their ability to learn from others. Yes, enlightenment is a lifestyle. It is a conscious lifestyle. You have to do this work on yourself. You have to, child, listen. And when I first started down this conscious path, because I feel like this has always been like an energy field around me, I just didn't always tap into it. When I consciously started doing this work on myself, being mindful, living in the presence, living in the now, it's like the whole universe pulled the band-aids off of my eyes, in a sense. And I see the world very differently than I've ever seen it before. I experience the world in such a different way than I've ever experienced it before. I don't get angry in traffic. I don't have a low tolerance. Yes, I do. I'm not going to lie. When I'm learning how to listen to people talk in circles. Listen, As a building leader, you have to listen to people have a conversation about a conversation about a conversation that they had about the conversation. That's not my ministry in general. I don't like to talk about the things and the things of the things and the things. I like to stay on the straight road. Like this is the point of this conversation. Let's get to the end. Like what's the actionable step? What's the action item behind where we started? Because now we started here, but we don't went to the right. And now we done backtracked and we done turned left and we went backwards from there. And now we talking about stuff that happened 5 years ago when we started here, but we way back. How did we get back there? When the conversation, we've been talking for an hour and we still ain't got to the that's not my ministry. I'm working on it though, because it's part of who you have to be at work. And honestly, that is when you have to navigate your consciousness with the unconscious reality of the world that you live in. Because people like to talk about nothing. It's the weirdest thing to me. Like, why are we talking about something that you can't, like, you just needed to hear. You just needed me to hear you talk. Okay. Now that I understand that, I didn't understand that before. I didn't understand. You just needed me to hear you talk about the stuff that you can't control. Okay. That part of my leadership experience, y'all pray for me. I'm still working on that because I'm like, look, I got stuff to do. Like, I got meetings to go to. I got other things I got to do. I got some observations I need to do. I got some kids I need to chill out with. Like, but you needed me to sit for an hour and listen to you complain. Okay. Pray for me, y'all. I'm working on it. Own personal mess. Yes, it is a mess. Oh, I'm not there. I'm growing up though. I'm trying to work on it. The pathological ego. In a wider sense of the word, the ego itself is pathological, no matter what form it takes. When we look at the ancient Greek root of the word pathological, we discover just how appropriate that term is when applied to the ego. Although the word is normally used to describe a condition of disease, it is derived from pathos, which means suffering. This is, of course, exactly what the Buddha already discovered 2,600 years ago as a characteristic of the human condition. A person in the grip of ego, however, does not recognize suffering as suffering, but will look upon it as the only appropriate response in any given situation. The ego, in its blindness, is incapable of seeing the suffering it inflicts on itself and on others. Unhappiness is an ego-created mental emotional disease that has reached epidemic proportions. I agree with that. I work with a lot of unhappy people that don't understand how I have so much joy on a daily basis. I work with people that I know don't really care for me, but I'm still so nice and pleasant to them, and genuinely I care for them. And I'm sure that just irks them to their soul. Like, she know I don't like her, and she's still pleasant. Yeah. Your feelings, your emotional disdain for me, that is not who I am. I will not absorb that energy. That's you. All right, beautiful says it is, because when you have a level of esteem about yourself, you can be humble and not operate off ego. You have to. I am on that journey. It hasn't always been easy, but I love it here. It's not going to be easy. Growth. I talk about this all the time. I get this from one of my favorite. I told y'all I listen to a channel that some of y'all might not vibe with or agree with, but he says this all the time. You can't have a diamond without it going through the blade. That diamond has to be cut. Diamonds have to be cut. You can't have gold without it going through fire. You want to be gold? You want to be a diamond in this world? You will suffer. You will be cut. You will be put through the flames of life. But on the other side of that fire, on the other side of that blade, on the other side of another human being's disdain or dislike for you, it's you. It is your pure essence. It is your strength. It is your wisdom. It is your being. It is your consciousness. Because it didn't kill you. It grew you. It didn't make you bitter. It made you better. It is the inner equivalent of the environmental pollution of our planet. Negative states such as anger, anxiety, hatred, resentment, discontent, envy, jealousy, and so on are not recognized as negative, but as totally justified and are further misperceived, not as self-created, but as caused by someone else or some external factor. I am holding you responsible for my pain. This is what implication the ego is saying. The ego cannot distinguish between a situation and its interpretation of what the reaction to that situation. You might say, "What a dreadful day," without realizing that the cold, the wind, and the rain, or whatever condition you react to, are not dreadful. I have a new thing that kind of bothers me. Somebody will text me and ask me, "How's your day? How are you? What you doing?" "Having a beautiful day. How's your day?" "Oh, it's Monday. I don't want to be here. I can't wait till school is out." You know what? Peace be still. Why is that your reaction? Why are you letting that have dominion over how you're doing today? When it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I am blessed to open my eyes every day. When it rains, I know that the earth is being watered so that life can continue. When it's snow and it's cold, I know Mother Nature is doing its seasonal things. It might be almost mid-May and it's still kind of chilly here in the great state of Michigan, but that is what this space does. It doesn't make me sad. I wish I could wash my car and it could stay clean, right? But it's not causing me to have a bad day because it rained. That rain needed to come. The birds needed to drink. The earth needed to heal. The animals needed to feed, right? Like, how do you not see the joy in the pain, in your discomfort? There is some type of awakening or awareness for somebody else. Stop with your ego-centered self. Every day is a beautiful day. Every single day. Even if you wake up in jail, you woke up. You get a chance to do better. You get a chance to reframe the narrative about who you are and whose you are. Not what society thinks. Society has made their decision about what they think about you. That is why you are where you are. But that doesn't change who you are. You get to define who you are, not society, not your residence, not your current location or incarceration. You get to change the trajectory of your consciousness despite unfavorable circumstances externally. They are as they are. What is dreadful is your reaction, your inner resistance to it, and the emotion that is created by that resistance. In Shakespeare's words, there is nothing either good or bad. Nothing. but thinking makes it so. What is more, suffering or negativity is often misperceived by the ego as pleasure, because up to a point, the ego strengthens itself through it. For example, anger or resentment strengthen the ego enormously by increasing the sense of separateness, emphasizing the otherness of others, and creating a seemingly unassailable force. Stress like, child, all these big words is driving my brain crazy right now. Fort stress like mental position of rightness. If you were able to observe the psychological changes that take place inside your body when possessed by such negative states, how they adversely affect the functioning of the heart, the digestive and immune systems, and countless other bodily functions, it will become abundantly clear that such states are indeed pathological. And pathos, we learned, is diseased. Are forms of suffering and not pleasure. Whenever you are in a negative state, there is something in you that wants the negativity. I'm going to repeat that for all the people in the back that are lying to themselves. Whenever you are in a negative state, there is something in you that wants that negativity, that perceives it as pleasure, or that believes it will get you what you want. Manipulation much? Emotional manipulation at its best, at its finest. I'm unhappy, so it's your job to make me happy. No. Otherwise, who will want to hang on to negativity, make themselves and others miserable, and create disease in the body? So, whenever there is negativity in you, if you can be aware at that moment that there is something in you that takes pleasure in it or believes it has a useful purpose, you are becoming aware of the ego directly. The moment this happens, your identity has shifted from ego to awareness. This means the ego is shrinking and awareness is growing. If in the midst of negativity, you are able to realize at this moment, I am creating suffering for myself, it will be enough to raise you above the limitations of conditioned egoic states and reactions. It will open up infinite possibilities which come to you when there is awareness, other vastly more intelligent ways of dealing with any situation. You will be free to let go of your unhappiness the moment you recognize it as unintelligent. He just said, if you're unhappy, you're stupid. That wasn't me, that was Eckhart. Negativity is not intelligent. Oh, yeah. I need a highlighter. Negativity. I'm worried that I'm concerned that I don't understand why. That's not intelligent. I'm afraid that it is always of the ego. The ego may be clever, but it is not intelligent. Your false sense of pride is stupid, unintelligent. Not me. That's what Eckhart says. Cleverness pursues its own little aims. Intelligence sees the larger whole in which all things are connected. Cleverness is motivated by self-interest, and it is extremely short-sighted. Most politicians and business people are clever. Very few are intelligent. Whatever is attained through cleverness is short-lived and always turns out to be eventually self-defeating. Cleverness divides. Intelligence includes. The background unhappiness. The ego creates separation, and separation creates suffering. The ego is therefore clearly pathological. Apart from the obvious ones, such as anger, hatred, and so on, there are other more subtle forms of negativity that are so common they are usually not recognized as such. For example, impatience, irritation, nervousness, and being fed up. They constitute the background unhappiness that is many people's predominant inner state. You need to be extremely alert and absolutely present to be able to detect them. Whenever you do, it is a moment of awakening, of disidentification from the mind. Here is one of the most common negative states that is easily overlooked, precisely because it is so common, so normal. You may be familiar with it. Do you often experience a feeling of discontent that could best be described as a kind of background resentment? It may be either specific or non-specific. Many people spend a large part of their lives in that state. They are so identified with it that they cannot stand back and see it. Underlying that feeling are certain unconsciously held beliefs. That is to say, thoughts. You think these thoughts in the same way that you dream your dreams. And when you are asleep, in other words, you don't know you are thinking these thoughts, just as the dreamer doesn't know he is dreaming. Here are some of the most common unconscious thoughts that feed the feeling of discontent or background resentment. I have stripped away the content from these thoughts so that the bare structure remains. They become more clearly visible that way. Whenever there is unhappiness in the background of your life, or even in the foreground, you can see which of these thoughts applies and fill in your own content according to your personal situation. All right, these are some of the thoughts. There is something that needs to happen in my life before I can be at peace, and I resent that it hasn't happened yet. Maybe my resentment will finally make it happen. Stupid. Something happened in the past that should not have happened, and I resent that. If it hadn't happened, I would be at peace now. Stupid. Something is happening now that should not be happening, and it is preventing me from being at peace now. Stupid. Often, the unconscious beliefs are directed towards a person, and so happening becomes doing. You should do this or that so that I can be at peace. And I resent that you haven't done it yet. Maybe my resentment will make you do it. Stupid. Something you did, said, or failed to do in the past is preventing me from being at peace now. Freezing people in time. Stupid. What you are doing or failing to do now is preventing me from being at peace. I ain't got nothing to do with you and your peace. Stupid. The secrets of happiness. All of the above are assumptions, unexamined thoughts that are confused with reality. They are stories the ego creates to convince you that you cannot be at peace now or cannot fully be yourself. Being at peace and being who you are, that is, being yourself, they're the same thing. If you are allowed to be, that is peace. That is yourself. If you are in relation with another human being and you are always telling them all the things that they are doing wrong, why are you in the relationship with them? You don't like who they are? Why are you there? You're not going to change another human being. It took me till I was 50, almost 51 years old to figure that out. My kids helped me get here, though, honestly. The ego says, maybe at some point in the future, I can be at peace if this, if that, or if something else happens. Or I obtain this or become that. Or, oh, yeah, I can never be at peace because of something that happened in the past. listen to people's stories, and they could all be entitled, "Why I Cannot Be at Peace Now." The ego doesn't know that your only opportunity for being at peace is now. Or maybe it does know, and it is afraid that you may find it out. Awareness, presence, and the ego can't be in the same space at the same time. Peace, after all, is the end of the ego. And ooh, baby, that ego does not want to die. Peace, be still, has no ego in it. How to be at peace now? By making peace with the present moment. The present moment is the field on which the game of life happens. It cannot happen anywhere else. Once you have made peace with the present moment, see what happens, what you can do or choose to do, or rather, what life does through you. That made me feel so good. What life does through you. Because life is going to life. You don't get to control it. But when you are at peace, when you can just be and just let life does what it do through you, it is an honor, an absolute honor to be here. There are 3 words that convey the secret of the art of living, the secret of all success and happiness. One with life. Being one with life is being one with now. You then realize that you don't live your life, but life lives you. Life is the dancer, and you are the dance. The ego loves its resentment of reality. What is reality? Whatever it is, Buddha called it tatala. Tatata? Tatata, T-A-T-A-T-A. The suchness of life, which is no more than the suchness of the moment. Opposition towards that suchness is one of the main features of the ego. It creates the negativity that the ego thrives on, the unhappiness that it loves. In this way, you make yourself and others suffer and don't even know that you are doing it. Don't know that you are creating hell on earth. To create suffering without recognizing it, this is the essence of unconscious living. This is being totally in the grip of the ego. The extent of the ego's inability to recognize itself and see what it is doing is staggering and unbelievable. I had an ego awakening moment in the relationship with my brother. He told me about myself and some things that I had unconsciously been doing for 50 years that he never shared, and I wish he would have, because I didn't know. And so it could have been my ego. It could have been his ego that stopped him from sharing that. My ego stopped me from seeing how I affected him. I don't know what it was, but there's ego involved on both sides to a certain degree. It will do exactly what it condemns others for and not see it. When it is pointed out, it will use angry denial, clever arguments, and self-justifications to distort the facts. People do it. Corporations do it. Governments do it. Institutions do it. Schools do it too. When all else fails, the ego will resort to shouting or even to physical violence. Send in the Marines. We can now understand the deep wisdom in Jesus' words on the cross. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgive them. To end the misery that has afflicted the human condition for thousands of years, you have to start with yourself and take responsibility for your inner state at any given moment. That means now, ask yourself, is there negativity in me at this moment? Then become alert, attentive to your thoughts as well as your emotions. Watch out for low-level unhappiness in whatever form that I mentioned earlier, such as discontent, nervousness, being fed up, and so on. Watch out for thoughts that appear to justify or explain this unhappiness, but in reality, cause it. The moment you become aware of a negative state within yourself, it does not mean you have failed. It means that you have succeeded. Until that awareness happens, there is identification with inner states. And such identification is ego. With awareness comes this identification from thoughts, emotions, and reactions. This is not to be confronted with denial. The thoughts, emotions, or reactions are recognized, and in the moment of recognizing, this identification happens automatically. Your sense of self and who you are then undergoes a shift. Before you were the thoughts, emotions, and reactions, now you are the awareness, the conscious presence that witness those states. One day I will be free of the ego. Who is talking? The ego. To become free of the ego is not really a big job, but a very small one. All you need to do is be aware of your thoughts and your emotions as they happen. This is not really a doing, but an alert seeing. In that sense, it is true that there is nothing you can do to become free of the ego. When that shift happens, which is the shift from thinking to awareness, an intelligence far greater than the ego's cleverness begins to operate in your life. Emotions and even thoughts become dispersonalized through awareness. Their impersonal nature is recognized. There is no longer a self in them. They are just human emotions, human thoughts. Your entire personal history, which is ultimately no more than a story, a bundle of thoughts and emotions, becomes of secondary importance and no longer occupies the forefront of your consciousness. It no longer forms the basis for your sense of identity. You are the light of presence, the awareness that is prior to and deeper than any thoughts or emotions. Pathological forms of ego. As we have seen, the ego is in its essential nature pathological. If we use the word in its wider sense to note dysfunction and suffering, many mental disorders consist of the same egoic traits that operate in a normal person, except that they have become so pronounced that their pathological, dysfunctional nature is now obvious to anyone except the sufferer. For example, many normal people, I'm going to put a qualifier here. I don't think any of us are normal. There's a word that I learned this year at work, neurodivergent. Neurodivergent. And that word is sometimes applied to students who think differently, whatever differently means. I believe we are all neurodivergent. We all are different. We all process differently. There is no normal. So I just wanted to put that qualifier out there. For example, many normal people, what does that mean? Tell certain kinds of lies from time to time in order to appear more important, more special, and to enhance their image in the mind of others, who they know, what their achievements, abilities, and possessions are, and whatever else the ego uses to identify with. Some people, however, driven by the ego's feeling of insufficiency and its need to have or be more, lie habitually and compulsively. Most of what they tell you about themselves, their story, is a complete fantasy, a fictitious edifice the ego has designed for itself to feel bigger, more special. Their grandiose and inflated self image can sometimes fool others, but usually not for long. It is then quickly recognized by most people as a complete fiction. The mental illness that is called paranoid schizophrenia, or paranoia for short, is essentially an exaggerated form of ego. It usually consists of a fictitious story the mind has invented to make sense of a persistent underlying feeling of fear. The main element of the story is the belief that certain people, sometimes large numbers or almost everyone, are plotting against me or are conspiring to control or kill me. The story often has an inner consistency and logic, so that it sometimes fools others into believing it too. Sometimes organizations or entire nations have paranoid belief systems at their very basis. The ego's fear and distrust of other people, its tendency to emphasize the otherness of others by focusing on their perceived faults and make those faults into their own identity, is taken a little further and makes others into inhumane monsters. The ego needs others, but its dilemma is that deep down it hates and fears them. Jean-Paul Sartre's statement, "Hell is other people." And we kind of have some phrases or statements that we make. Um, we damn people to hell. Some of us don't have a heaven or a hell to put you in. You find your peace or your heaven or your hell on earth, not in some other life. The person suffering from paranoia experiences that hell most acutely, but everyone in whom the egoic patterns still operate will feel it to some degree. The stronger the ego in you, the more likely it is that in your perception, other people are the main source of problems in your life. It is also more likely that you will make life difficult for others. But of course, you won't be able to see that. It is always others who seem to be doing it to you. The mental illness we call paranoia also manifests another symptom that is an element of every ego. Although in paranoia it takes on a more extreme form, the more the sufferer sees himself persecuted, spied on, or threatened by others, the more pronounced becomes his sense of being the center of the universe around whom everything revolves. And the more special and important he feels as the imagined focal point of so many people's attention, his sense of being a victim, of being wronged by so many people, makes him feel very special. In the story that forms the basis of his delusional system, he often assigns to himself the role of both victim and potential hero who is going to save the world or defeat the forces of evil. The collective ego of tribes, nations, and religious organizations also frequently contains a strong element of paranoia. I agree with that. That's why I unchurched. I had to. Us against the evildoers. You don't have a heaven or hell to put people in. What? It is the cause of much human suffering. The Spanish Inquisition, the persecution of burning of heretics and witches, the relations between nations leading up to the First and Second World Wars, communication through its history, the Cold War, McCarthyism in America in the 1950s, prolonged violent conflict in the Middle East are all painful episodes in human history dominated by the extreme collective paranoia. It reminds me of some lyrics in one of Kendrick's songs, and he's talking about consciousness, collective consciousness, and how we kill each other, and we all have a collective consciousness, just like and or equal to Vladimir Putin. What he's doing, our collective consciousness allows for that type of stuff to exist in this space, and it's never going to end. We've been at war since the beginning of time. Who thinks war is not going to exist anymore? The more unconscious individuals, groups, or nations are, the more likely it is that egoic pathology will assume the form of physical violence. Violence is a primitive but still very widespread way in which the ego attempts to assert itself, to prove itself right and another wrong. With very unconscious people, arguments can easily lead to physical violence. What is an argument? Two or more people express their opinions, and their opinions differ. Each person is so identified with the thoughts that make up their opinion that those thoughts harden into mental positions, which are invested with a sense of self. In other words, identity and thought merge. Once this has happened, when I defend my opinions, thoughts, I feel and act as if I were defending my own very self. Unconsciously, I feel and act as if I were fighting for survival, and so many emotions will reflect this unconscious belief. They become turbulent. I am upset, angry, defensive, or aggressive. I need to win at all costs, lest I become annihilated. That's the illusion. The ego doesn't know who you are because the ego is the unobserved mind itself. In Zen, they say, don't seek the truth, just cease to cherish opinions. What does that mean? Let go of identification with your mind. Who you are beyond the mind then emerges by itself. All right, y'all. I'm getting tired of reading. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 more sections. I think I'm going to put a pin in it today. It's been 2 hours and my ADHD has maxed out. So when I come before you next week, I might wait for my friends to wake up so that we can chat, because I only have 4 more sections in chapter 4. Chapter 5 is called The Pain Body, and this chapter starts at 129, and it's not as long as chapter 4. It goes through page 160, so it's about 30 pages, so it is a bit lengthy. So I'll navigate next week accordingly. I will start with work with and without ego. We will touch on the ego and illness, the collective ego, and then finally, incontrovertible proof of immortality. And then the next section is called the pain body. And I know we're not going to get through all of that if we get to it. So next week, I'm not sure. Oh, yes, I am sure. It won't be Saturday. Girl, you got stuff to do. I got stuff to do on Saturday. So if I come before you next week, it will be Sunday. And I will try to wait maybe until 7. Because we need to catch up, y'all. I got some things going on. So just a real quick catch up. The Boogaloo went to his girlfriend's prom yesterday. I have a big interview coming up this week. I am registered for my first class towards my PhD. I have embarked on a very different relationship with someone from my past that I've known for over 20 years. And I think that's it. My son's dad didn't show up for my son yesterday, and he was crushed. My son cried. And I was sad for him. But I told him to use that information and grow. Understand, this is who he is. You have more information. Grow. All right, that's it for me today, y'all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. I love you all. I appreciate you for showing up, whether you caught me live and or on the replay. Thank you, and thank you. Please hit that like button. Please hit that share button. And please subscribe. I love you. Mwah. See you later.